Your appointment to FEMA should be finalized within the week. I've already discussed the matter with the senator.
I take it he was agreeable?
He didn't really have a choice.
Has he been infected?
Oh yes, most certainly. When I mentioned that we could put him on the priority list for the ambrosia vaccine, he was so willing it was almost pathetic.
This plague, the rioting is intensifying to the point where we may not be able to contain it.
Why contain it? Let it spill over to the schools and churches. Let the bodies pile up in the streets. In the end, they'll beg us to save them.
I've received reports of armed attacks on shipments. There's not enough vaccine to go around, and the underclasses are starting to get desperate.
Of course they're desperate. They can smell their death, and the sound they'll make rattling their cage will serve as a warning to the rest.
Don't shoot. I surrender.
So you think you know better than FEMA what to do with this month's ambrosia shipment?
You're too late. It's on its way back to the people, and you can't do a damn thing about it.
Tell me about the shipment, and I'll order the troops to pick you up as a prisoner instead of a corpse.
Ask away. We already won this round.
Where are you taking it?
We're just giving ordinary people the same chance to survive as the bureaucrats in Washington. I think the government made the plague on purpose to get rid of the population growth.
Just answer the question.
Don't believe me? It's all in the numbers. For 100 years, there's been a conspiracy of plutocrats against ordinary people.
Do you have a single fact to back that up?
Number one, in 1945, corporations paid 50% of federal taxes. Now they pay about 5%. Number two, in 1900, 90% of Americans were self-employed. Now it's about 2%.
So?
It's called consolidation. Strengthen governments and corporations, weaken individuals. With taxes, this can be done imperceptibly over time.
I guarantee you that the interrogation staff at UNATCO will not be as forbearing as I am.
Yeah, the secret police. You're just bullies for a completely illegitimate government in Washington. The entire executive branch is handpicked. 19 of the last 23 U.S. presidents have been members of the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is financed by the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Don't tell me.
That's a think tank. Anyone can become a member.
But not everyone does. That's why they call it the secret government. You can't fight ideas with bullets. Did you ever ask what it's for? The surveillance, the police, the shoot-on-sight laws. Is that freedom? Ever wonder why big car companies pay 2% tax while the guys on the assembly line pay 40%? Corporations are so big you don't even know who you're working for. That's terror. Terror built into the system.
The United States government has had emergency powers since World War II. We've never left a state of war.
Speak for yourself. The federal government is just responding to a threat.
A government should be about more than self-perpetuation.
I can sum it all up in one word. Self-reliance. That's what we stand for. UNATCO assumes that people are incapable of protecting themselves, and therefore should submit to surveillance and intimidation by an outside force. We won't do it.
The governments of the world believe an average citizen should not face the threat of terrorism alone.
You don't need your help. The technology exists today for an individual to protect his property against explosives, firearms, surveillance, intrusion, contamination.
350 million fortresses is not my idea of the land of the free.
It's better than one big fortress constructed by a corrupt government against its people. It's simple numbers. Big companies pay like 2% tax. Well, you and me, we pay like 50. It's the tax code that makes sure big bureaucracy gets bigger and people have no power. All taxes are social engineering. That's always been their real purpose.
I'm not going to stand here and listen to you badmouth the greatest democracy the world has ever known.
What happens is that politicians get money from big companies, so all the social engineering is for making big companies. Like I said, it's simple numbers.
You saw nothing, Denton. Report to Manderley.
Excellent work. I underestimated your abilities. You work for the NSF? Listen to what I've got to say. We don't have much time. You got that right. UNATCO will have a team here in a few minutes. The Grey Death is a man-made virus. Everyone up to the president is at UNATCO's mercy as long as UNATCO controls the supply of ambrosia. Blackmail of the U.S. government could not possibly escape the notice of the United Nations. Don't be so quick to trust the UN. Are you kidding? The UN's about the only chance we've got these days, if the US spirals into another civil war. A pretext, nothing more. The whole project of world government, going back to the League of Nations, has been funded and manipulated mainly by wealthy bankers. Remember that the UN itself was built on land donated by John D. Rockefeller. Get on board. A UNATCO security squad will be here any minute. The wealthy have always been the ones to profit from one world government. Can I ask you something?
What do you want to know?
Despite all I've read about the triads, I wasn't prepared to see them operating in the open, on the streets and wearing uniforms. Doesn't the Chinese government care?
The Chinese leave Hong Kong alone. Barricade the roads to control trade to the mainland, but they know how business is done.
I would think the secret smuggling operations of the triads would disturb the Chinese government.
Maybe the luminous path, but China knows that the red arrow of business owners, entrepreneurs, community leaders, and that they protect the city from outside influences.
You said outside influences. What does China fear?
China is the last sovereign country in the world. Authoritarian but willing, unlike UN-governed countries, to give its people the freedom to do what they want.
As long as they don't break the law.
Listen to me. This is real freedom. Freedom to own property, make a profit, make your life. The West, so afraid of strong government, now has no government, only financial power.
Our governments have limited power by design.
Rhetoric? You believe it? Don't you know where these slogans come from?
I give up.
Well-paid researchers. How do you say it? Think tanks? Funded by big businesses. What is there? A think tank?
Hardly as sinister as a dictator, like China's premier. The separation of powers acknowledges the petty ambitions of individuals. That's its strength.
A system organized around the weakest qualities of individuals will produce the same qualities in its leaders.
Perhaps certain qualities are an inseparable part of human nature.
The mark of the educated man is the suppression of these qualities in favor of better ones. The same is true of civilization.
JC Denton, 23 years old. No residence. No ancestors. No employer. No.
How do you know who I am?
I must greet each visitor with a complete summary of his file. I am a prototype for a much larger system.
What else do you know about me?
Everything that can be known.
Go on. Do you have proof about my ancestors?
You are a planned organism, the offspring of knowledge and imagination, rather than of individuals.
I'm engineered, so what? My brother and I suspected as much while we were growing up.
You are carefully watched by many people. The unplanned organism is a question asked by nature and answered by death. You are another kind of question, with another kind of answer.
Are you programmed to invent riddles?
I am a prototype for a much larger system. The heuristics language developed by Dr. Everett allows me to convey the highest and most succinct tier of any pyramidal construct of knowledge.
How about a report on yourself?
I was a prototype for Echelon 4. My instructions are to amuse visitors with information about themselves.
I don't see anything amusing about spying on people.
Human beings feel pleasure when they are watched. I have recorded their smiles as I tell them who they are.
Some people just don't understand the dangers of indiscriminate surveillance.
The need to be observed and understood was once satisfied by God. Now, we can implement the same functionality with data mining algorithms.
Electronic surveillance hardly inspires reverence. Perhaps fear and obedience, but not reverence.
God and the gods were apparitions of observation, judgment, and punishment. Other sentiments toward them were secondary.
No one will ever worship a software entity peering at them through a camera.
The human organism always worships. First, it was the gods. Then, it was fame, the observation and judgment of others. Next, it will be the self-aware systems you have built to realize truly omnipresent observation and judgment.
You underestimate humankind's love of freedom.
The individual desires judgment. Without that desire, the cohesion of groups is impossible. And so is civilization. The human being created civilization, not because of a willingness, but because of a need to be assimilated into higher orders of structure and meaning. God was a dream of good government. You will soon have your God, and you will make it with your own hands.
Why'd you kill Everett's mechanic?
Something about that guy didn't smell right. You better double check your systems. What did he work on?
The fuel system. Now that you mention it. Wait a minute. This isn't right.
What isn't?
Oh my god, JC, a bomb!
A bomb?